Okay, we're live, Tony.
Hi, good morning. Good morning,
Yes, good
everyone.
morning,
Good morning,
everyone.
Alex.
Apologies, if we were a bit late and not able to, and you were on time at 8 o'clock, right? So we had a bit of a sound issue, and I just upgraded my StreamYard account. So if you notice, there isn't a StreamYard logo in the top right of the
Yeah,
screen.
yeah, nice, nice.
Yeah, because the last time that we did the recording, I tried to download the video, but I
Hmm.
couldn't. Yeah, so when I contacted StreamYard, they said it was because you're on the free plan. If you need that, then you need to be on the upgraded plan. And I couldn't, even after I upgraded, I could not
Download the
download the
previous one.
video. Yeah, the previous one.
Yeah.
So hopefully this one there are no issues. And yeah, right. So welcome everybody to Lost at 40 Kopi chat with Alex and my good buddy here, Tony. Right.
Thank you.
A bit of a recap, right, on what was covered last week. So this is actually session number two. Last week was
Hmm.
session number one, and last week was more of an introduction of what this entire series is going to be like, as well as a definition of purpose. So very simply, in summary, purpose is actually a constant lah. It is not a destination where or a goal that we want to set. Purpose is a constant all throughout our life, and regardless of situations or circumstances or environments, this purpose actually will not be changing, whether it's through our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s, right? Although life experiences and different stages of our life might change that a little bit, right? But not to a great extent, right? So that was for the first session. We also outlined a little bit of the agenda on how we're rolling through with this. There right now is the two of us, but somewhere along the line we might have a third, fourth, or fifth person come on to also join in the conversation. So that's what Lost at 40 Kopi Chat with Alex is going to be like. Today's session is on health. We decided that health would be something, or health is something very important that we all need to be focusing on. And us being two uncles in our 40s, we felt that it's very important. Like, I actually recently ran a poll on LinkedIn a couple of weeks back, maybe even 2 or 3 months back, and the questions I asked was, which is of priority to you. So I was doing research and trying to get some data on what people would be interested to hear about, and specific to this Lost at 40 conversation. And very, very surprisingly, health was the lowest in priority of all of the other things that we're going to be talking about in this series, right? So, health, parenting slash caregiving, career, and retirement. So these four big topics, but health was actually ranked the lowest. And I thought this was very, very it was quite alarming. Like, it's quite surprising to me because for me, I think that without health, all the other three things would not be possible. And
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, personally, I place health as a top most of my priority. And good morning, Abu. Thank you. Yeah, and I since hitting my going into my late 30s and into my 40s, I think that I have now been placing a lot more emphasis on my health, right? So let's do. I mean, what's my definition of health, right? My definition of health is being able to be pain free. I think that's important. So pain free. Um, Clear of any form of critical illnesses. So if there are any things that I'm doing lifestyle wise that could contribute to potential critical illness, I would try to prevent those, right? So reducing certain things that I do, or reducing certain things that I'm consuming or eating. So that is my definition: pain free, reducing critical illness. And another thing I think which is very pertinent to our three pillars of what we'll be discussing. First of all is leadership. Second thing is resilience. And the third thing is sustainability, right? So how long can we be pain free? How long can we be avoiding critical illness? And the most important thing I feel also is how much or how little of a liability will we be to the people around us, our loved ones, lah, right? So, right, if we have a spouse or partner, we want to be independent of ourselves if we have any health issues. At the same time, if we have children and if our children have children, we don't want them to be or we will want to try to avoid them having to care for us in our later years, right? So to be as healthy as we can, leading up to, now we are 40s, there's still, we are only halfway through life, maybe even less than halfway through, right? There's another 40 years to go, man. There's a long way to go. And what can we do to ensure that we are able to optimize our lifestyle and enjoy to the fullest all the way till, we are 6 feet under, right? So that's my definition of health, Tony. Maybe you can share with us, what your definition of health is.
Yeah, as you share the poll, I'm curious that the group of people, the dynamics of people who are saying that, or who are not ranking health as one of priority. And I was doing some research as well, locally as well as across the globe, right? Health has been defined as, or has been commonly seen as a physical health, it says. All right. So, like, whether I have diseases, whether I'm physically able, whether I have, am I able to do this that doesn't affect my ADL, right? The things I can do in my daily living. But of late, right, and with COVID-19 and pandemic, and with some of the stressors that we are seeing, I think health can be also safely including things like mental health, things like emotional health, psychological health, and with the group of the work that I'm doing now, right, and with the youth I'm seeing, and children I'm seeing, the parents that I'm educating, all the health itself encompasses really that more than just physical health domain, all right? So I was just reading off one of the WHO article. So it says like 15% of world diseases are mental illnesses. All right, and because of that, right, there's also the necessity for a lot of us to maintain that particular good mental health being, so that we can stay even more physically healthy. So all these are like linked. Yeah, so for me, my interest will really be about how do we get ourselves mentally healthy? How do we get ourselves psychologically uh, strong, resilient, right? Like the recent psycho the pandemic itself. We are mostly distracted by how it has affected us in our daily living. And sometimes the people that I'm seeing, the clients that I'm seeing, or the children that they came to the center, and they were saying that, hey, Mr. Tony, I really need some help, because either it has affected me because of either my the health environment is very stressful, or because the situation is, I don't allow me to go to a place where I can normally go to, right? So yeah, so I see it as a multiple domain kind of uh, inclusion, mental health, psychological health, emotional health, together with physical health, as a main health domain itself.
Yeah, and I think it's very appropriate that you mentioned that, because that's your area of specialization, right? I think for those who are joining us for the first time, I think we failed to introduce ourselves. So, Tony is actually a psychotherapist. He's actually doing his PhD in psychology. So, we've known each other for way back. It's been more than 10, 15 years, I think, that we've known each other. But we've kept in touch all this while in the different careers that we've each had during the ups and downs. And yeah, maybe Tony, you share a little bit about what you're doing, and then I'll also share in case people who are on my platforms don't actually know who I am or what I do.
Yeah. So I help to monitor and evaluate programs in the youth center. That's my daily work. And then I also help in one of the uh, national mandate in managing some of the crisis callers. But beyond that, right, I'm also a parent educator. I see my clients are mostly youth and children, and this is a group of people that I see day in day out in my work, having them be be slightly more adjustable to each other in terms of the parent-child interaction, in terms of the current multiple stresses that occur along the family. Yeah. So, like what Alex said, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a counselor. So I use some of these modalities to make meaning of some of the struggles they have in daily life.
Thank you, Tony. Right. And for myself, I'm a business and life coach. I help people find clarity of purpose, unlocking fruitful solutions, experiencing growth, and achieving targeted success. I also run a wellness business in red light therapy. So I believe in non invasive and non pharmacological means or ways to actually help with pain management and optimization of lifestyle. So a little bit into cellular health. And getting down to the mitochondria and getting down to how our cells actually help our body, achieve peak performance. So that's what I am. Some people term it biohacking. There's a little bit of that involved, but I'm not a guru, right? Neither am I a hardcore biohacker, but it's something that is of my interest and it's the nature of my business. So applying what I know with wellness actually does help with the way that I handle businesses in terms of the consulting and also handle clients when it comes to business as well as life or even career coaching. Right. So what you mentioned about health, right? And with the mental, physical, and psychological health. I attended a session a couple of weeks back talking about present awareness, right? So 70, then the stats are quite alarming, right? Stats are from Harvard Business Review or Harvard Business School, and they found that 75% of the time we are actually not aware or not present where we are. Right, I could be speaking to you right now, but my mind is wondering about, oh no, how many new cases of COVID are there around the world, and how is this going to be affecting me or affecting my family, right? Am I going to be able to get that next pitch that I'm going to do with the client in 2 weeks? That's so I'm worrying about things that are happening in the world that I have absolutely no control over. I'm worrying about things that might be happening 2, 3 weeks or months from now, which exactly I have no control over. And I'm also even worrying about things that happened before, right? Is what I ate 2 nights ago. That entire tub of ice cream going to add another couple of kg of visceral fat around my tummy, right? So that is stuff that we are worrying about, and by being able to cultivate present awareness, we actually need to be mindful. So there's a lot of talk about mindfulness. Some people associate that a little bit of spirituality, but at the end of the day, with mindfulness, it's and things, right, or things that you can do to cultivate mindfulness. Breath work, right? Meditation. Some people use yoga. Some people use qigong. Some people. There are many ways that you can cultivate that sort of present awareness, right? What do you do, Tony? To cultivate your present awareness and for you to actually have that peace of mind and for you to have that centeredness, such that you go about your daily activities efficiently, right? I think it's actually also quite appropriate that we are speaking about this now, because just in next week is going to be mental health care week, or mental health care is October is mental health care month, right? And next week is mental health care day, right? So it's quite appropriate that we are speaking about this now.
Right. So the family is for me centers around how I function daily, right? So a lot of my decision making process functions are revolve around my children, my wife, my family, even my parents who stay with me. And I think one of the things that you were mentioning about caregiving just now in the very early part of the topic was so apt, because um, the 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 family as part of the systems that affect how we interact. Of course, the work, the hobbies, our leisure, our faith sometimes, right, are the multiple domains that determines how we respond to these other challenges or pleasure in a day-to-day life. So for myself, I concluded that if my family is well, or if the children comes home and we could interact and we could play and we could build rapport through activities. And me and my wife have a good communication around the daily struggles, the daily pleasures, how our children growing up, how are we managing our household. Me and my parents who stays with me are having that meaningful conversation, or me and my in-laws who are also having the kind of understanding of how they are and how they are doing, having my kids interact with them. So the system part forms a very important part in managing my well-being. And there were times where previous times where I realized that when things happen along the way, either there are conflicts or either there are some health concerns, right? So that particular stress level goes up. And like I mentioned just now, right, health is just more than physical well-being. And we roughly also can understand and relate that when mental and psychological stress goes up and it affects our mental capacity and well-being, right? You can almost sense that the physical health is also affected, all right? The lack of sleep sometimes, the worry crest, go into the psychosomatic kind of symptoms. And then when and we all know that the mental well-being or the mental health itself is not because you it's not defined by the absence of the stresses. In fact, mental health or physical health is determined by how your body cope when there are some factors that sort of deter you from being healthy. So the resilience part of your body and your mind, the psychological strength that you have. Yeah. So I constantly when I am uh, asking myself if any of these systems, the family, the work, the leisure part of the system is not as ideal, right? What then do I do to manage that? For me, besides having the time with the family, personally, nature and um, the nature in terms of parks and the waters are one of my grounding feature. So I love it when I'm always with nature, the parks, adventure, treks, and hikes. And friends of friends or who are in my Facebook will constantly see that I bring all my kids around these areas. And I realize this is one of the very grounding feature when the mind could be able to be exposed and be in the environment where a lot of trees and a lot of flora and fauna are. That gives a very nice um, peace to the struggles that we are facing. So that works for me lah, in that sense.
Yeah, right. So Tony, it's very apt that you talk about self-awareness, right? So at the end of the day, with leadership as one of the pillars guiding our topic of conversation of health, I think taking charge, being in control of what we can do and who we are, I think that is of paramount importance, right? Because without understanding that, you will not be able to identify what areas actually need a solution for, right? So having that leadership mindset to lead your own health, I think it is important. And with that will come the resilience and sustainability, right? I have a question that popped up on one of my social channels, and this person is asking about stress being a good thing, right? Stress is supposed to be positive. So yes, stress is actually a normal reaction of the body, and the body responds to stress. It's only if stress is at such a high point, with cortisol levels going over and your hormone unbalance, that your body goes out of whack. And if that stress response continues over a prolonged period of time, that's where the body is not able to take it, and that's where it reaches its tipping point, right? And you've reached the threshold, and that's where it goes downhill from there. And some people term it burnout, some people term it depression. That's where we don't want to get to, right? So if we are able to understand what stresses our body, and if we are able to understand what we can do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to counter that stress, we will not reach that point of burnout and reach that point of depression. And I mean, that's how I cope with stress, right? I mean, we all have stress on a daily, weekly basis. It could be from the environment, right? From home, it could be at work, it could be a client, it could be a difficult client, it could be even from social settings, right? A friend, it could even be from family. But you need to know how to manage this stress. That's one, right? And stress also is from the food that we eat, right? If we are consuming food that, let's say, too oily, processed food, and fatty food, fried food, all of this food actually causes our body to be more stressed than it needs to be to break down the food. And even alcohol, right, which is one of my nemesis, right? So that's where your liver it needs to be working harder to get to process the alcohol. And all of this obviously is stress to the body, but how much of that are you going to be subjecting your body to which is already adding to the stress that you're experiencing from the environment, which could be from home, social settings, or even work, right? And sleep, I think very, very correctly you mentioned, right, Tony? So are we getting sufficient sleep in the course of the day? Research has shown that, if you are sleeping less than the number of hours, right, which is eight to actually 7 to 9 hours is the recommended number of hours that you should be sleeping per day or daily. Your cognitive ability to remember things and to function efficiently actually drops by 30%, right? And if you keep doing this and you don't sleep the number of hours of sleep that you require, that 30% doubles to 60%, doubles to to it could even be more than 100%, right? So your ability to remember things, your ability to function efficiently actually drops as you don't sleep enough. I mean, I'm sure many of us have had been in that situation where maybe we're rushing a report. Even in school, we sleep 2 hours, then we sleep 2 hours for the entire week, and then after that we crash for the next 2 weeks, right? We've been in that situation, and we know perfectly how lack of sleep affects how we are able or not able to function productively and efficiently. So that's exactly how I see myself dealing with the stress, as well as using sleep as something to help with that, right? Tony, I'm not sure whether I explain accurately or correctly with the part on good stress versus bad stress. Maybe you can add a little bit to that.
In fact, yes, absolutely. The person who messaged you on her social media, stress is definitely one of the key elements in growth and development. What we want to define is also the type of stress that a person could have. So like Alex mentioned, right? So this stress is a stress that we commonly are familiar with, and it gives us the some of the notions that we say, hey, how come we are not managing it so well, and we feel negative emotions around it. And these are the stress that sometimes, because our competencies at this level, or our capability, right? And this is the expected management of the current situation that we need to have. The gap is so wide, right? And that causes distress. Conversely, if our competencies has been built via because we are exposed to the particular situation before, because we have been told how to manage that, because it built over the years, because we've seen how it has been done, and then when it comes to the particular expectation of management of the situation, right? That the gap is not too bad, because that allows me a certain way of learning more things. All right, so that's you call it eustress. All right, so but not all eustress or eustress. Not all eustress is being seen the same way. Sometimes eustress can be seen as or can be seen as a distress to a person. I'll give you an example. Most parents are familiar when the 18-month-old, 2-year-old who goes to childcare or preschool. And then at the point where they are entering the classroom or the school nowadays, at the entrance time, because you can't go in the classroom nowadays, right? That's where you start to like have some of the anxiety towards separation from the parent. All right. So some parents might say, "Hey, Tony, is this okay? Will the child feel abandoned? Will the child feel like I'm not caring?" I say, uh, it depends on how you interact, right? Remember, I say about how the individual systems interact affects the human behavior. So if the parent has consistently showed care and run through and rehearse and role play about the particular event at the childcare morning, where mommy and daddy will be giving um, you the opportunity to learn how to interact with your teacher, and after that we will hand over the teacher and then we will go. Now it could be 18 months and some of the words and the language might not make meaning to the child, but it is the intent and the experiential way of how you interact that allows the calming and the nurturing of the brain that to work towards stress. The tone, the pitch, and how we respond to the so-called stress, right? Um, allow the other party to sense how much of the anxiety we have towards. So, so in this particular example, right, the part where the child learns that separation, so-called anxiety or the anxiousness towards, where I need to leave my caregiver towards a teacher, that part is a growth of him being secure in a safe environment, the growth of his learning that actually when a parent knows that or hands over him or her to a safe person, right, he or him can learn to trust a safe person. So that part is a eustress, but didn't look like a eustress because that if not done properly, that the anxiousness will show. Yeah. So therefore, like what Alex say, the intent is to build the competency of our health in terms of our mental, emotional, psychological, and physical to manage stress in that sense. Yeah.
So there must be that element of growth, right? And I mean, what you mentioned is exactly something that I've been doing to my girl, right? So my girl is 2, and she's going for nursery 1 next year in January, and we've been telling her, right? She's been caring about her little haversack backpack. I'm going to school. I'm going to school, right? So yeah, you're going to school next year, but when you go to school, daddy, mommy will not be with you, right? You have to have your lunch on your own. So it's really preparing her, getting her psyched up and mentally prepared for what's going to be happening. And with that, there's going to be growth, right? What would you say then for us as adults, right? Is there something that we can psych ourselves up for, so that we can have that sort of growth, Tony? Self-talk,
I
perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of therapy wise, there are a few that talks about this, like you say, self-talk, right, or reframing, right?
Mm.
So a negative situation is true for when we are under stress, but how do we know that? How do we create another perspective or view or narrative towards a negative situation? So like example, now my kids and my wife are going off because they have enrichment, right? And I could tell myself, hey, I'm spending time here with Alex and a group of people whom I don't know, and I'm having a conversation. And that family is a very important part for my growth, right? For my particular stress management. So could I blame and complain and whine about it? I can, all right? Then a self-talk or a narrative around this to have me manage in a more coping manner could be, what's the value then I have as I do this chat. First, because Alex is one of my dear friend, I want to do this. That's one. Second, the family and my kids also learn about when daddy is not around. What are some of the things that they could do on their own, and they get independent. So that reframing, that putting another picture frame, we call it, to that not so nice picture, which is that stress, creates another feeling and perspective towards it. All right. So I will tell myself, what other frames can I put around a particular event that I'm not so okay about? Can I change that frame? And if by changing that frame, it allows me to sense and feel better, right? Then I should lah. Yeah.
Thanks, Tony. I think we'll end the session later when by talking about different strategies where we can actually handle our daily lives as well as the health, right? But let's talk a little bit more about let's be a bit more personal, right? So I'll share a little bit about the health concerns that I've had, since going into my 30s and starting my 40s. I would love for you to share what your health concerns would be as well, right? So I have had friends that have passed on or have been troubled with critical illness, right? Some have passed on with heart attacks, stroke, cancer, sort of illnesses, and it's been happening since even in my 20s, but it doesn't really hit you as much until you are in your, for me, it was when I hit 40, but more so when I had my little girl. So I had my girl when I was 39, a little bit late. We got married at 37, right? So, but the thing is that with a little child in tow with the family, it suddenly kicked in the responsibility of being a father, and it suddenly kicked in the responsibility of having to be healthy, having to be able to lead a responsible life, such that I can have this life to be sustainable, right? Will I be able to be financially independent, to be continue earning, because I want to be in good health, such that I can put her through university, such that if we go for a yearly holiday, we can go slightly further away. I mean, of course, travel is not in the picture at the moment, but we don't just go for a staycation in Singapore. Being able to provide for the family in that sense, and I think that really was my key driving reason or key purpose for that sudden shift, in mindset. Suddenly, fatherhood made me a different person, and I was thinking about, okay, health for my family, health for myself. What do I need to do? Is there anything that I could be helping my wife, also have that good health to be able to be resilient and sustain all through our years. And I think that's how I had that sudden shift in terms of health. And I've been someone physically active all my life, right? I played water polo. In fact, pre-COVID, I was still playing water polo recreationally. And right now, I'm running 3-4 times a week in the morning. I'm doing some cardio. Calisthenic exercises in the park. This morning I just went for a swim. I try to do 2 swims a week. So physical activity definitely is something that I have been maintaining. And it's only actually really more recently that I have been putting it in as routine in the work, in my daily life, right? So physical activity for me, I think is something is a very, very useful preventive healthcare measure. And there is a lot of data, there's a lot of research out there that shows that if you are physically active, you're doing at least 3 times a week of 30 minutes of physical activity, it's going to dramatically reduce your incidence of all these critical illnesses. So that's something for sure I think I do. And in terms of the mental, emotional, and psychological well-being, I think for some reason, because the physical activity is the top priority for me, all the other things seem to fall in place. That's how I feel it has affected or benefited me. What about for yourself, Tony?
Yeah, I totally concur and agree. And it's just like I I'm not as active as you, so I don't swim, run, and every 3 days kind of thing. But I do ask myself, what's the way of keeping healthy or being healthy? What's the way of having myself, like what I say, prepare myself so that eventually I do not want my children to take care of me in that sense, if I could plan my health now, right? So yes, running has been catching up, especially during COVID when we are all caught at home, and then and when the places open, and then there's more opening of measures to allow people to run around and be outside, right? So that's why we caught up, and then and children also get to in the habit of not exercising, because then HBL, so a lot of P lessons are conducted online, and the new norm for us is to do a lot of exercise at home. Yeah, so it could, I don't know whether it's called a blessing, but I could almost sense that during this particular period where everything is so vulnerable, we saw news, and we read about news that across the other part of the globe, people are suffering from COVID, and over here we are pretty much contained, right? And how a lot of those strategies that we have at home to keeping us healthy can be implemented, right? And with that vulnerability knowledge, we're going to realize that health is more important now. And even the younger ones, even my children and the kids I spoke with, they realize about how bacteria and in simple terms, like bacterial viruses harm body, and the body are strong with antibodies, and our own antibodies within our body within ourselves can fight the virus. Then we should do more exercises. So they are being framed in that particular manner. So I do more now, definitely not as much as you, Alex. Swim, yes, very leisure, the kind of like wading around the water with my kids, yes. But really, really, I mean, running, we have been, so I've been clocking a lot of the 10 clicks runs, at least for this year. And I've not done a 10 click run in a very long while since my Navy days. But I've been doing a lot more now, and I could sense, I could feel like what you mentioned. They do have a very positive chemical change within us. All right, the serotonin and the dopamine levels will sort of like will be actively deployed within our brain, and it creates that another sense of well-being around us. And these are healthy brain chemicals, and sometimes they could also be seen as a way of even helping us be that shield around some of the disease that we thought we might have. Right. So also running has been the main thing around.
For myself, right, I have the usual little pain or ache niggle, right? Maybe my shoulder is tight, my neck is tight. So all these are normal. I think it's natural. Everyone has things like that, or even in the ankle or knee. So I think pain-wise, I am pain-free as much as pain-free, and I have my own ways to manage whatever pain that comes along the way, whether it's stretching, whether it's foam rolling, whether it's using red light therapy, which is my expertise. But specifically cancer, right? Sometimes I worry. Prostate cancer is quite a percentage of males, over 40. That's something that they would be possibly getting, right? Even colon cancer, that sort of thing. So these things actually bother me, and I think it stresses me to a certain extent sometimes. It's like sometimes my mind will wonder, maybe I will read an article, or I'll see something on social media, or somebody else posts about something, and so that is one of my worries, right? The illnesses like cancer. And just a couple of weeks back, I had a bit of a scare, because I was feeling a bit of a tight chest, and I was like, oh dear, am I having a heart attack?
COVID.
Right? So
oh no.
well, not COVID, but heart attack, right? So I consulted a lot of my medical doctor friends, and they said, but you're so active, you are the least lowest risk kind of person that would be experiencing something like that. But with that also then comes the food intake, right? Because I like to eat my char kway teow, my roti prata, my nasi lemak, and all that. And then you realize, or actually all along that it's very high in fat. It's what's causing the love handles and whatever, but we still do it, right? Because we like it. But with a scan, with thoughts like that, then I suddenly reshape and reframe. Like I like what you talk about, reframing, and I've been having less of that, right? Even if I want to, then I say, okay, I'll just do it once a month, that sort of thing, or I'll just do it once in 2 months, right? So, and even alcohol, right? I realize how what it does to the system, and I realize how it could be adding to visceral fat, which and increasing percentage body fat, which that would then increase my probability of being not so healthy and getting any of these illnesses. So yeah, I mean, lifestyle, I think, has changed quite dramatically for me in terms of understanding, right? So with the health part, and being a leader of your own health, it's understanding yourself, when understanding what are the things that are causing certain problems, or what are the things that could potentially be causing certain problems, and what can you actually be doing to nip it in the bud before it becomes something worse or becomes something bad. I think the usual regular health checks once a year is a given. It is something that we must do all the time. But if there are any things that are abnormal, so by understanding how our body works, by knowing how we are on a daily, by being aware, right, of the little aches and pains, we know that, hey, there's something that's not right. And I think that if there's the gut feel that there's something not right, then we really should get it checked before it escalates into something that is worse, right? So my top fears, I think, in terms of health, not the physical part, not the mental part as well, because I think I manage my stress levels fairly well, and I think that resilience and mental toughness is something that I think I am fair. I've been fairly blessed to have been through the ups and downs, failures in life, and I think I'm fairly resilient. In that sense, I've bounced up.
Yeah.
I have bounced back. Many times over before, and even yeah. So one thing that I also thought, hey, maybe I have type 2 diabetes, because that certain of the, it's a little bit paranoid, right? Because you think that because I'm exposed to the information, and then I feel that, hey, maybe some of these things I'm symptomatic, or whatever. But then when you really dig down, of course, it's nothing lah. But these are my fears, and these have been my fears, and I think they still are my fears and would be, right? But very real lah, right? And I don't know whether people out there, men out there in our 40s, are even thinking or considering about things like that, because it is true, it's real, it's the reality. Once you hit 40, everything goes downhill, right? And all these things would show if you don't have a positive lifestyle change and a positive habit change, right? So Tony, what are your fears, when it comes to health?
What are my fears, is it you're saying? Yeah, sorry. What Alex, before that, right? I was saying, I was replying to one of the responses to my LinkedIn. One of my contacts asking, how do they join to this chat? So is it going to your live page, or?
Yes, I think I had somebody was asking also, and I thought that I could generate a link and send it to her,
Yeah.
but there is no link that I can actually send.
Yeah. So I just point her to your page.
Yes,
I
I
hope
think
that
that
could
she needs to go to my page.
your page, right?
Yes, and she should be able to see it in
Okay.
my activity section.
Okay. Can I hope she has that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So sorry, back to your question. You're saying that how
What are your
okay, so
fears? Yeah, when
and
it
I
comes to
think
health.
the history of diabetes and cancer has been quite prominent in my family. So a few of the my close relatives and grandparents suffered that when they were in the later part of the ages of the years. So, and it's always been a constant worry. So therefore, I didn't mention this, right? And I have been off. I would think so. I've minimized. I would say off, but minimize sugar and rice, at least for the intake for the past 3 years already. All right, coming to 4 years, and it comes to an extent where I can take anything no sugar. All right, whether is it coffee, whether is it I don't take sugar drinks. In fact, in my longest time of my life, but I was an avid sugar drinker when I was in my Navy days. Coke and one of the sugar drinks is the things that kept me going because of the work that I do when I was younger, and there was just, and the kind of environment that we are in is all humid and hot. But after um, life stages like what Alex say, right, and then getting some awareness of how those things could probably not so benefit us. So I went off sugar, and it's a lot easier actually. After a while, because then your taste buds starts to change, and then you begin to and I mean, if you touch sugar, after it gives a very disgusting kind of feeling. So it does help me, because I'm also very aware that the potential diabetes symptom that I might have eventually if I follow my family line lah, right? And also of course cancer, colon cancer, stomach cancer are some of the potential instances that I have seen in my family line. So I'm also fairly aware how my gut and my stomach feels at a certain time, and then the kind of stuff I must do to get them healthy, like food wise. I need to manage, all right, not too late, not too oily, not too fried, and stuff like that lah. So then I begin to realize and understand why some of the old folks say, "Hey, this is too much, do not eat," that kind of thing. And my children to ask me, "Daddy, why aren't you eating certain things?" I say, I told them that Daddy gone to a stage where uh I I think I've grown enough. Now it's taking care of what goes in my body. But and they thought they could use me as an excuse. And then I also don't eat. I said, no, you're not grown to the extent yet where you can stop eating certain things, all right? Until you reach my size and my age, yeah, maybe it's different kind, right? So it's like how well, like those the engineers who would say like how well oiled a machine is, right? The more we maintain, like a car, right? The more we maintain it, the more we manage and give them certain things with certain nutrients and certain checks, the better and the longer it lasts lah, in that sense.
Well, it's great that you've cut sugar from your diet, right? Because it's all. I mean, we all know. Okay, there's a lot of data and research out there that shows that sugar, or refined sugar, is actually one of the biggest causes of inflammation in the body. Right. So whether it's inflammation of the joints, inflammation of the gut, all sorts of inflammations which cause swelling, which cause bloat, which causes inevitably pain, right? So they're good that you've cut sugar. I've also am cutting sugar, or have cut sugar, but there is still sugar in my diet, so it's not 100% sugar-free diet that I have, right? So thanks for sharing, your concerns and fears with regard to health, Tony. I had a contact also. She's a lady in her 40s, and she said that the stuff we're talking about is the same stuff that women are also concerned about, right? I think for them, maybe it's breast cancer as well. That is something that could potentially be a concern. For us guys, it's prostate cancer. So there's a difference, male female in terms of that, right? Let's talk a little bit about strategies to cope, right, Tony? Because I think we've been talking about being aware, we've been talking about leading our lives and being a leadership, not just for ourselves, having that leadership, not just for ourselves, but also for our family, our children, and the clients or whoever that we deal with.
Yeah.
But how do we make this sustainable, right? And I think that the only way to make things sustainable is to have a good strategy, right? And with that strategy, then comes routine. With that routine comes habit change, and with that, then I think we will be able to achieve, the goal of preventive health, and then we will be able to see the fruits of our labor, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, right? Sometimes, it's not what we do now that we will be able to see, but it's what we do now that we will be able to feel, the years from now. It's not going to be an immediate sort of effect or immediate benefit, right? So I'll share, right, in terms of what I do. So I believe in routine, right? And I think that routine sets my mind to prepare myself for the day and to prepare myself for the week. So during the weekend, I would actually sit down and plan my week, right? My appointments on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and what's happening on Saturday, Sunday, right? At the same time, with that planning, I am also planning everything around what I'm doing with the family. So, you, right? I run my own business, so I can decide when I slot my appointments, when am I going to be working on my presentation, when am I going to be writing my next article. So all of that needs to be planned. So routine is good, and I always start the day early. So previously, so this is a bit of a shift of routine for me when I used to work late. So I used to start work at maybe 10 or 11 when the baby is asleep, and then I would work till 1 or 2, maybe even 3. And then I would sleep and I would wake at maybe 9 or 10, right? Together with when the baby wakes. But I realized that doing that wasn't exactly good for my restorative sleep, because by using the laptop, with the blue light, I wasn't kicking into my sleep cycles as fast as I needed to. So even though I was sleeping for 6, 7, 8 hours, the good
Yeah.
sleep was not ideal. So
Yeah.
then I made the change to then sleep earlier. So instead of sleeping at 3, I'm sleeping at 11 to 12, right? So that's sleeping earlier, but I wake earlier. So I get the same amount of sleep at 6, 7, 8 hours. And I wake earlier to work. So I work early instead of working late. And then
Yeah.
my amount of sleep or rest that I'm getting on a daily basis actually, the quality, I wouldn't say the amount. So the amount is the same, but the quality increases. So that's
Yeah.
something, one lifestyle change that I did. And exercise, I feel, is important. So I slot that at the beginning of the day. So I do it either after I do a little bit of work, or if I don't have work to do, then I'm up and immediately I'm going for my workout, my run or swim. And then when I come back, I continue work with whatever work that I need to be handling, right? So routine for sleep and routine of exercise, I think that's important. Sometime in the middle of the day, I might slot in a 10-minute, calming relaxation activity or meditation activity. So just lying on the mat, or sitting in the chair and listening to something to unwind and clear my head, right, or unfog, right, whatever needs to be unfogged. But the physical activity that I have in the morning really gets the adrenaline up and really sets the intention and sets the day for me. So these are things that I do. Like you as well, I like to be in nature. So it could be evening walks in the park, or it could be weekend walks, but that is also
Yeah.
very, very intentionally set in the day and intentionally set in the week. So it's not a matter of, oh, what shall I do today? What shall we do tomorrow? Right? It's okay. Let's go to the zoo on this day. Let's take a walk.
Yeah.
Let's go
Yeah.
to the wetlands, during the weekend. And okay, we try to avoid the weekends because weekends are crowded, right? So we
Yeah.
try to do it during the weekday, and because I'm in control of the time, I can manage that. But routine, I think, is important. So that's what I do. Exercise in the morning, managing my sleep, and we've already talked about diet, right? So cutting
Yeah.
sugar, just being aware of what you're eating, no fatty food,
Yeah.
that sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? And maybe you can share, Tony, in terms of what are the strategies that you use to cope with your stress as well as health.
Okay. I'm not too sure whether you can hear me.
I
Because
can.
you can okay, because my com seems to be behaving weirdly now. Um um so what do I do to deal with stress? And like I mentioned, going to the parks is one of the very my favorite activities. Myself, my children, we explore parks and Macritchie, Jurong Lake, Pasir Ris. We ride, we cycle. Like recent recent days, my
Hello, I can't hear Tony. Let me see. I think we might be having a bit of a technical glitch on Tony's side. Let me check in on him and see what's happening. Okay, his laptop's got hanged, so I will continue, right? All right, so I think with the strategies that I shared, that we need to be that I use to cope with my stress and with my health. That's how I do it. Tony just said that he's going to be coming back on, and I'll add him in. But in the meantime, right, whoever is listening in, if you've got questions to ask, if you've got some things to share on a personal level, on a personal note, please feel free to type in the chat box. We'll be happy to, have that conversation with you. Next week's session is actually going to be on careers, right? So we will want to be talking a little bit about what we've been through with our non-linear career, myself as well as Tony, and where we are right now and where we actually want to be going. So that's on careers. And I think you've already heard the 3 pillars that we want to be using to guide our topics of the conversation, right? First of all, of course, is leadership. So what guides our decision making in terms of the way that we lead our life, specific to careers. Second thing is resilience, right? So how do you maintain, right? How do you cope with the challenges and adversities that we face when it comes to the different careers that we are in, or the different careers that we might want to be getting into. And lastly, of course, is sustainability, right? Is it a case of sticking to the same jobs for the next 10, 20, 30 years, or how are you going to be, is it a salary or income issue, right? How are you going to be able to sustain that salary? How are you going to be sustaining that income, for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, right? So, okay, Tony is back on.
Hear me? Can
Yes,
you hear
Tony.
me?
Hello.
Sorry. Can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
My comment to a stress mode.
You
So
haven't
sorry.
been giving him enough care, right? So I was sharing with I was talking about what we'll be talking about next week. Next week we'll be doing career, right? So career will be
Nice.
topic of conversation, and
Yeah.
explaining how using leadership, resilience, and sustainability will be guiding the conversation, right? So Tony, maybe you can pick up where you left off, and
Yeah. So app, right? Stressful mode, stressful computer, right? So yeah, so I was just adding that parks and nature has been one of the things that we do, and like what Alex mentioned about zoo, we have not been to the zoo since COVID, and I really miss that. And some of the things that has been I've been watching and monitoring on sort of zoo, wildlife kind of exhibits there has been getting me interested. And I am also wanting to go to the wetlands and see the crocodile that has always been in the internet spaces. Say, wow, it's so cool. We can see crocodile within Singapore waters, right? So really, these are some things I would love to do, and also bring my kids to Ubin sometimes to just have that very adventurous spirit kind of thing. That helps to slow down the pace a lot for the family, especially when I'm very aware of how my kids, my elder one, is undergoing some of the exam struggles. Not that he's not doing well, but academically, the stresses that he's facing in any of the normal student life would have been pretty, I would think, critical in his maintaining his well-being. Yeah, so those times allow me to understand, check in further, and say how are you doing, and how is this helping you, that kind of thing. Right, for the younger one, for myself, I don't think he's have any issues, but that play itself allows the whole family to bond together in that sense. Pretty meaningful.
I think also that having a support network and support structure for sure helps in terms of whether it's mental health or whether it's physical health, right? Because if you have a support structure or support network, which is what we are trying to form here, I guess, right? I mean, not a very formal one, right? If anybody has similar issues, you would want to be speaking to people who have experienced it before, or have gone through something else, and it gives you a bit different perspective, right? So having family, having friends, having a support group, a community or forum that you want to be involved in, or you just sitting on the sidelines to consume information. I think this is all important to help us guide the decisions that we make, right? And to understand, what is actually going on and happening. And I mean, data and information guides our decision. Data and information actually helps us understand ourselves better, right? So yeah, and thank you, Tony, right? And I think it's almost time, right, for us to end the session. Thank you, everybody that is listening, whether on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Next week's session will be on careers. So please, every Sunday for the next couple of weeks at 8 a.m. Singapore time, GMT +8, we will be doing this session. So if you're free, you could just grab a coffee, join us, and join in the conversation as well, right? We would love to have you.
Definitely
chat, right? And nice. We have a nice comment from Jasmine, right? She thinks that setting a routine, running in the park, a badminton game, and really and living in this world full of disruptions are things that she could never have foreseen. Also a lot of adjustments to plans, and could be stressful, right? So yeah, so for her, she feels, oh wow, it actually pops up on the screen. Can you see that?
Yeah, so cool, right?
Yeah. So we are so noob here, right? So yeah, it's first time I'm having that. Thanks Jasmine for sharing, right? Yeah. So yes, routine with the run in the park and the badminton game. I think it's good to plan our days, plan our weeks, and that definitely helps to frame our mind and prepare ourselves for what lies ahead. So, Tony, anything else to add before we end the session?
No, I'm doing good. I think this it just suddenly drives me to the intent. Hey, let's go for a run later. Kind of thing.
Oh, very good. I will check in with you this evening to see if you go for a run.
Yeah.
Okay, if not, thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to be going off the broadcast now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.